They said you were the best in the Parsec.
Welcome to
Parsec Passion, a podcast about Star Wars TV shows on Disney+. Currently, we're talking about Cassian Andor and Episode 7 announcement. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is Keith Grigo. Keith, how you doing, Keith Grigo?
I'm having a great time hanging out with some aliens. No problems. You know what's really nice about here is the cops are real cool about the tourists because they know where their money comes from. Oh my God, I'll see you later. Bubba, I am pleased to be here today. Don't ask too much for me in this episode because I finally realized I was perfectly described tonight. I'm more of a can-do guy than a will-do guy.
Oh, man. Listeners, what did you think of Episode 7 announcement? We're going to be breaking it down. We're going to get our friend Double M Matt Murdock doing a musical analysis. We're going to have our Bounty Hunter Guild battle where we debate a big issue in this episode. Whose theory and methods are right? Luthen's or Mon Mothma's? We're going to debate that. What do you guys think? If you're watching this on YouTube, go down in the comments. On social media, you can reach out to us at PHQ. Who do you think is right of these two rebels? But before we do that, we've got to rate this episode. Catfish, what is your rating out of 10 for announcement?
Well, Bubba, I was going to use quadruple S's.
Okay, good. Use it.
Yeah, stylish, sad sack Syrils. But I am tired of picking on Syril.
Yes.
By using S's. So I'm going to pick on Syril by using double B's.
Double B's?
Yeah, bespoke boneheads. I am going to give this episode 8.5 double B's out of 10.
Ooh, 8.5
I love
is pretty
just
high.
going to different places. Yes, we learned so many new things that Mon Mothma's not all in on the plans with Luthen, mostly because she has no idea what his plans are, which is interesting. She's trying to rope in somebody else. I wonder if this is the guy that she was talking about trying to rope in when she talked about someone earlier with Luthen. Luthen has these grand plans, which we're gonna have the Bounty Hunter Guild battle about. Bubba, I learned something fascinating tonight too, and that I was gonna go 8, but I had to go 8.5. Shave and a haircut knock. People may know what the knock is, but don't know it's based on a song that's actually much, much older than me. So it's shave and a haircut, 2 bits. So da 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 da. Bubba, that knock spans space and time. Cassian uses it to try to wake up the ex when he comes for a late night booty call. So that gave it an extra 0.5. Bubba, I loved it. I talked about last time. Okay, so Cassian, he's got all this money. How is he going to get roped into, not just living the sweet life? We see it. He tries to gather the people that are important to him. His mother and his ex, they both say no. So rather than stick around to convince him, he goes and hangs out with some new girl at the beach who all she cares about is a little lovin' and the green ones. I like the green ones. And so then he gets caught up in some stuff. There was a lot more of, I talked about a few episodes ago how the show was all about office politics. We had a lot more of that tonight. I thought this was a great bridge to what was happening next. I really enjoyed the episode. But who cares what I think, Bubba?
Not me.
No one cares what you think. So let's go to no. What do you think, Bubba?
Catfish, I am getting very frustrated because we do a lot of podcasts right now here on the Double P Podcast Network.
We do.
And we're 2 in sync because I'm giving this 8 double C's out of 10.
Double C's?
Yeah, double C's, as we all know, stands for crappy cubicle. Poor Syril Karn ends up in the worst cubicle in the galaxy. I mean, that is... I can't complain about my job anymore. That looks miserable.
It's not a cubicle farm. It's a cubicle super farm.
Right. Remember how a couple episodes ago I was like, why not get Syril on whatever he's going to get doing? Why leave him just stuck in his bedroom? Have him have some sort of next step in his life in this episode. And now that I see his next step that his good old uncle got for him, I'm like, Okay, yeah, let's go back to the bedroom. This is miserable, but I went 8 out of 10. I love every single thing in this episode. I'm docking 1 point for these non-endings. I even think, all right, you're going to prison for 6 years. That could be an ending, but no, the ending has to be Syril in his cubicle. And so it's like, huh? So 1 point for that. I'm docking 1 more point for just the lack of fun aliens or droids. We got a bit in this episode, and so that was like, oh, I want more of this. I didn't get it. So
come on,
but otherwise, this is
out.
great.
He got choked out. Bubba, I always watch with the subtitles, and I met a new kind of trooper tonight.
Oh, let's hear it.
A shore trooper. That's what they refer to these guys as, shore troopers. You think if they were shore troopers, they'd make them look a little bit more friendly, or at least make their uniforms look like they're wearing some shorts. I mean, those are hot uniforms for the beach.
Well, we first saw shore troopers in the movie that gave us Cassian Andor, Rogue One. But you're right. Being on the beach in stormtrooper armor, the color of sand, that just doesn't, it is not tropical fun like you would hope.
No.
But hey, I love everything in this episode. This episode was really just repercussions from the robbery in the last episode, but it was all good. It was all tense. It was all logical. I loved it. You're pretty high on your rating as well.
Heck yeah.
So listeners, what do you think? We say it every week. We want to know what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, go down in those comments and tell us what you thought of episode 7. You can reach out to us on social media at PHQ, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. We want to hear what you thought of Cassian's time in the Florida Panhandle.
Welcome to Jacksonville.
Hey, we always like to jump right in and do some quick hits before we break down the episode. So, Catfish, let's do our quick hit questions.
Love it.
Our protagonist has had several names so far through 7 episodes. What's been his best name? Is it been Casa? Is it Cassian, Clem, or his latest name, Keef?
It's funny because I was writing the notes separately and I wrote down Keef Clemsian. I love Keef Clemsian, but Keef sounds like a cool guy. The only problem I have with that is, unlike all the rest of his names, I would be like, he would say, I'm Keef, and I'd be like, Keith? No, Keef. Keef? Like Reef?
Right, yeah.
Speaking of Reef and Keef,
Yeah.
Bubba, do you think he named himself after his favorite local scalawag, Grief Karga?
Grief
the names
and
are so
Keef,
familiar.
trust me, Grief is hanging out at the beach all the time. Well, actually, that's a good point. Instead of Grief Karga, he became Keef Gurgo. I mean, this is, he really was inspired by our boy.
You know what they say? I'm having a hard time. I can't keep up anymore.
Well, let me say that if I had all those credits, I would buy a better name than Keef. It's pretty weak. You got all the money in the world. And also, let's be honest, you don't want any attention given to you. So you
Keef
could have
is
just.
a beach name. Keef is a beach name.
It is, okay.
Sure.
But you don't think you could just go by, my name's Tim, R.I.P. Tim with 2 M's.
All right, Bubba. So what was your favorite name of his?
I do think that Casa is a good name, especially when I'm a feral child living out all by myself in Lord of the Flies land. I think Casa is a good name. Casa, let's roll. But he got civilized and had to become Cassian weak. Yeah, I know. I agree. I like Casa. All right. Hey, here's our next quick hit question. His home planet, not his true home planet, but his adopted home planet of Ferrix. Apparently, everybody there hates or blames him for all the trouble that has happened since the Corpos and now the Empire has taken over. Should they blame him? Yes or no? What do you think, Catfish?
No. I think they should blame, in this case, the answer is always Tim, and only partially because he's got that extra M in his name. I would say 20% they should blame him for that. 80% for everything else. He's the one who caused all the trouble.
True. You could also blame Luthen because probably without Luthen, Cassian gets captured and then everything's fine. Syril's happy. Ferrix goes on living in their squalor. So I don't think they should blame Cassian either. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're going to be very cold and judgmental, which is not good. But one of our characters, Vel, we met her And she'd been living out in the woods for months on end, weeks on end, so she could pull the Aldhani scam. And now Vel goes to Coruscant. She gets a makeover. Grade Vel's Coruscant makeover.
I'm going to give this what I like to call a double B.
Double B.
Yeah, bad blowout.
She did it. I thought it looked good. Okay, bad. Why was it a bad blowout?
Maybe I'm just used to seeing her the other way. First of all, it took me, I don't know, 3 to 5 seconds to recognize who it was. It's just not my favorite look, Bubba.
Listen, I think it's a great look, but the fact that you pointed out it is so obvious a blowout and she got a little coloring done that I like it. I like it, Val. You go when you're in the big city, sure, dress to impress. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Quick hit. Worst brown suit. Syril Karn's brown suit that he wore to his job interview, or President Obama's?
Oh, it's got to be Obama's. His collar was way too low.
100%. You are correct. Syril, there's one thing that you know about Syril. Tailoring. He is the king of tailoring. He gets that collar raised up.
The only person that thinks he's successful is his tailor because he spends half his money at the tailor. Taylor thinks he's rich as a planet.
So good. Our final quick hit, we do it every week. This whole mess started because Cassian was looking for his sister. Quit looking for your sister, Cassian. It's a waste of time. But if Cassian's sister's out there, was she in this episode? Catfish, who is your Cassian sister of the week?
It's Bix.
Oh, man. Oh.
Wait, is this the House of the Dragon podcast?
Wait, you mean because he was going to do a double B?
Double B.
Bix booty call, like you mentioned earlier.
Yes. Yeah, well, presumably that's their ex. He already has done it. I'm going to say when he finds out, it's going to be an unfortunate situation. It was Bix all along.
Oh, man. I'm just really sad that he didn't get a, booty call rebound. She's so depressed about Tim. She's like, comfort me, Cassie.
I know. Look, he doesn't even mind. Maybe if maybe he would have gotten a little attention if he was a little bit more concerned. He's like, what happened to you? She's like, I ran into a wall, as always. And he's like, all right, now back to me.
Oh, okay, that's tough. So anyway, yeah, I've got this cash that I want to give out. Listeners, what do you think? What do you think about these silly quick hits? If you have an answer better than ours, and we know you do, once again, let us know. Now, Catfish, watching last week's wonderful episode 6, and even this really fun episode 7, it gave me a thought of how spoiled rotten today's kids are. They have so much. When we were kids, way back when, we had 3 Star Wars movies, and if you could find a copy of it, the holiday special, which was never rebroadcast again after that first airing.
For a good reason.
For a great reason. And so that's all we had. Now, people would create spoofs like Hardware Wars or Spaceballs, but we really had 3 movies and a holiday special you couldn't find. I want to find somebody who is new to this world. And listeners, if you have kids, if you know somebody who just never got into Star Wars, I want to find a kid or adult who's never watched any Star Wars and have them watch the entire live action output in the story's chronological order. Now, I'm leaving the animated shows out, but if you just do live action, I want to see somebody watch The Phantom Menace, then Attack of the Clones, then Revenge of the Sith, then Solo, then Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, Rogue One, A New Hope, the Holiday Special, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
16 bits of content that you can really go. Now, would it be...
And then when you say bits of content, some of these bits of content represent 10 hours. How long are you going to give people to watch?
I just want to see it. I want somebody...
worth of content?
I just want to see it. I want to see if the story is too whiplash. Would it be too whiplash going from Revenge of the Sith to Solo? You're like, because you hadn't met Han Solo yet, you're like, who's this character? And then to Andor, and you're like, wait, what is this going on? And then certainly from A New Hope to the Holiday Special and then The Empire Strikes Back, you're like, what is going on in all of this? And so I'm going to say, listeners, at the end of season 1 of Andor, which is going to end on November 23rd, 2022, Catfish and I, it'll be crazy, but we're going to rank all 16 things, the 16 live action Star Wars things from best to worst,
Didn't
from
we?
worst to first.
We
We've
already
ranked the
ranked the
movies. We've
movies
ranked the movies.
in the preview Mandalorian
Yeah,
podcast, I
we
think.
did. We've ranked the movies, but I think we got to include these shows. Can you rank? So right now, let's figure out the Mandalorian has probably close to 10 hours from its 16 episodes. That's true of content. Would you rate those 10 hours higher than Return of the Jedi? Like, this will be our debate. Listeners, we want you thinking about it. Hey, it's
No,
great.
Bubba, I'm going to make you. That's not fair. I'm going to make you rank. I'm just going to rank those 16 things. But for
Okay.
you, you're
Yeah.
going to put, for the TV shows,
Oh,
every
no.
individual episode, you have to rank them.
Oh,
You
man.
have to put
Okay.
them in
That would be,
in the right.
that'd be
That's
fair. Oh, my
that's
God.
you. That's you. You giving me a job. I'm giving you a bigger job.
All right. I think I could do it. I think I could do it. And
All
this will be
right.
a 2-hour podcast, but sure. Okay. Hey, and speaking of podcast listeners,
Mhm.
if you're into House of the Dragon and you haven't jumped on with us yet, we talk about the House of the Dragon each week on our The Joffrey podcast feed. Go anywhere you find wonderful podcasts and just search The Joffrey podcast. That'll bring you to Catfish and I breaking down each episode. There's only one more episode when we're recording this of season 1 of House of the Dragon. It's a really fun show. We think you'll like it, and check that out. And as we've mentioned on a couple of podcasts, we just started a fun new murder mystery series where Detective Catfish, tries to solve who did it.
I'm on
And
the
that's
case.
called Let's Solve Magpie Murders. You can find that wherever you find Double P Podcasts. That's an individual podcast feed there. Double P Podcast, Let's Solve Magpie Murders. And our listeners are trying to solve it along with Catfish. Let's see if they can find all the clues and break it down. But speaking of breaking down, now it's time
Yes.
to dive into episode 7. Catfish,
do
we
it.
spent time on what I consider, what I believe are 4 different planets. We spent some time on Coruscant, a lot of time on Coruscant. We also spent a brief bit of time on Aldhani, where Cinta was there. We just literally, just 2 shots, it felt like, of Cinta. We went to Ferrix, and Cassian caught up with his old friends. And then we went to a new planet called Neamos, where it's spring break, baby, the beach. Which planet do you want to go to first?
Oh man, let's just start with Coruscant.
Okay, all right. So a lot of action here. Most of our characters are here in the heart of the Imperial Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we start with just our boy Syril Karn, who a couple episodes now, it's Syril looking out his bedroom window like, I am screwed. Has this happened to you? Is this too relatable? He's going for a job interview and his mom is just not impressed. Is that what you're wearing? Oh, is that the color you're wearing? What's with the collar? Oh my goodness
The collar
gracious.
is all wrong, and you think you're like jumped up. That's what she's saying. She's saying wear the clothes for the job that you're going for, not the one that you're never going to be able to do successfully.
Now, his mom, once again, we believe it's pronounced Edie. It's Eedy is how they spell her name in closed caption. How do you feel about this character? Are you glad we see her browbeating her son, or at a certain point are you like, Syril, get busy? This is taking too long.
I mean, if you were to think about it deeply, you would understand and maybe feel pity for Cyril because
Oh yeah.
he's the way he is because of his mother. But since we met him first and laughed at him and find him so ridiculous, I really get a vicarious thrill of his mom browbeating him.
Oh my goodness gracious. I kind of do, but at a certain
Mhm.
point I'm like, dude, stand up for yourself. Let's go. Or how about at a certain point,
Mhm.
just do what she says. Switch into the other suit. Stop making us suffer. You can suffer. We don't need to suffer. So the uncle came through,
Mhm.
and we see Cyril has a job interview
Mm.
at the Bureau of Standards.
Mm.
Does that sound fun? Yuck.
No, it does not sound fun at all.
And what about those cubicles? Have you ever worked in an office cube? It is tough.
I have. You know what though? You have to say this about them. Even though it is like the worst cubicle farm, it almost looks like they're all just little bees making their honey in their little bee comb. But is that they're actually it's a nice setup. The cubes aren't high enough so you can't see other people working, but at least if someone's coughing in the cubicle next to you, that cubicle is still about 4 to 6 feet away.
No, that's a good point. Theoretically, he has the job, right? Yet he's still talking about, I was stationed on Morlana 1, and there's a rebel murderer running free. Da da da. It's like, dude, this is about standards. Chill out.
He at that point he couldn't. I know I said I wanted to stop using the S's, but I had to go. This was triple S right here.
Uh-oh, triple S.
Yeah, superfluously sharing Syril. This guy's like, yeah, great information. Here's your job. You're going to be looking at stuff on the screen, and no, it doesn't matter whether you do it or not.
Well, it's about fuel purity. Is that
that's
fun?
What they always say.
Oh, it is just miserable. But in this economy, jobs are tough. Thanks a lot, Palpatine.
I mean, it really is. Yeah, he is. He's screwed Syril. It's great. I don't know. I don't know at what point Syril might meet up with someone who is finding more success by doing some work outside their scope. But there is someone out there who could use maybe someone to staple her papers together or whatever.
The episode ends with a shot of Syril there in that monument to cubicles. Did you feel any sympathy for him? Do you still enjoy laughing at his life just getting worse and worse and worse? How do you feel that we've spent a lot of time with this guy who did have a lot of impact until he didn't? He really hasn't done much of anything since episode 3.
Maybe this is just because I'm a horrible human being, but Cyril's suffering is like a fresh mana for my soul. I'm ready to see it. In fact, I don't want him to go up.
Oh, no.
I want him to keep going down.
You know what is crazy is I would never believe this is true, but I think there's actually a chance that could be true. This poor guy, that I'm beginning to feel sorry for this sap.
No, not at all.
All right, well, let's go to somebody who is not falling down but rising up, and that's Dedra there at the ISB. Now, this episode, the first we see of the ISB is the supervisor is coming in.
It is remount time. I thought that was Partagaz at first until they showed the guy who was speaking, and I'm like, oh my God, even Partagaz is eating it now.
No, this is very much Alec Baldwin telling you, second prize is a set of steak knives. Like this guy, I'm going to just read some of his quotes because they're stone cold. He goes, they think they shocked us, but we know the real shock will be when they find out how ready and eager we are to respond. The only question we need to answer is how tight to close our fist. This is why we work so hard when we're at peace. Oh, that was the line that was a true eye-opener. And what they're going to do is there's going to be a tribute tax equal to 5 times whatever the Aldhani 7 stole. Holy smokes. The ISB is going to be able to call up the Army or the Navy whenever they need them. And it's time not for porgs, but pords.
Oh, my God.
The Public Order Resentencing Directive.
Holy cow, Bubba, not poured. I always hate it when they call for poured, but I love this is more workplace BS. They love the acronyms. We've got the monthly darts, and so that means we're gonna have to porg this week, or you'll all be turfed. Basically, this is martial law, y'all, and it is coming hard.
I love it. Yeah, you're right. It's like quadruple F's. See something, say something. Like all these acronyms, they have to go there at the ISB. Now, Dedra still has her like number 2 at the current point, and they're talking, and she's stone cold. She's like, no, this isn't good. We're playing right into the rebels' hands, and this wasn't a robbery. It's an announcement. The episode title. So the one thing we can say, poor Syril once again, just completely falling down on the job. But Dedra, she's writing everything. She knew this was an announcement, and sure enough, that's Luthen's main goal was an announcement. Love it.
Yeah, well, before that, though, let's peace out to the 134 Aldhani residents who are now going to be the first to suffer. As we predicted last week, things were not going to go well for them. So, so that is funny.
They did get to see the eye. So if you're going to go into custody, at least you enjoy the eye.
It was
wait a minute, there were only 60 people there watching the eye. So that, that means like 74 extra people have been taken into custody. Good job.
Yeah, well, at least those other people may not get to see the eye, but they had some real cheap drinks and food before they got swept up. Oh, man. So then Mon Mothma comes into Luthen's shop, and we find out that she didn't know about it. Instead, we're dealing with a triple L situation.
Wait, triple L?
Yeah, lying, laughing Luthen. Not only did she not know about it, he says he wasn't involved. Now, he says that, and he seems pretty forceful about it, but in the sense of their conversation, as they start talking, he basically kind of fesses up to it by saying to her, has everyone ever made a weapon that wasn't used?
Oh, that's a great line.
We need the fear. We need them to overreact.
She says people will suffer. And he says that's the plan.
That's the plan. That's exactly right. I mean, and this is what I said. I said, check, plan working.
Well, only 135 Aldhani got taken into custody. Think of the hundreds that weren't.
But this is going to, again, we're going to debate this at the end. We got a real serious debate at the end of all this foolishness.
Let's get to a debate right now, Catfish, though. Mm-hmm. So Luthen's aide, Clea, she leaves the shop, and now she has a different look. When you go out, you got to go slightly undercover. So she has a different look than she normally does. And she meets up with Vel, and they're talking about the classic things. Oh, you got the money. The money's safe. What about the trawler? Well, we got rid of the trawler. It's gone. Everything's good. And then Clea says, we have a loose end who you know as Clem. We can't have him walking around with Luthen in his head. This is what a revolution looks like, Vel. Is this the right move? Did they always intend to kill all these people? Or just Clem because Clem was a hired mercenary? This is stone cold. What do you think about this?
Well, it's funny because I noted originally when Luthen said to Vel, "No, don't worry about Clemian, he's expendable."
Right.
And what it turns out was that that wasn't quite the case. What it should have said was, at the end of the mission, he should be expended, and you need to expend him. I didn't know if he thought that the person who was most qualified to fly something to get out of there was going to be the one that died and the rest of them would make it. Or I don't know if he even, honestly, who knows if he even cared whether it was successful. The fact that there was an attack and that the Empire would come down hard on people, that's what he wanted. So it does go back to, the question I had when he said he's expendable in the first place. I thought, well, for a guy who's expendable, you really took your life into your own hands to try and get him.
Oh, yeah, exactly right. They spent a lot of resources to get him. The plan wouldn't almost have succeeded without him, but I think you raise a good point. Luthen, while it's nice that it succeeded and they got these credits, Luthen didn't care. He wanted an announcement like, hey, Empire, you've been taking it to us. We're going to take it to you. And so just incredible, eye-opening statements in this episode. Why don't we go back to the ISB for a bit? And Dedra, I wrote in the notes, she's pulling a Syril Karn. Remember how Syril, when he found out about this murder, he and the boss is away. Remember the boss went to the conference, and so Syril was something like, hey, underling, pull up these reports, do this. Dedra's doing the exact same thing. This poor attendant Felzoni who was sleeping on the job, man, I love that guy, hero to all. She's like, I want you to pull all these records. He says, I can do. What does she say?
She says, well, you will do it.
Right. Love Dedra.
This was Oh man, this is one of the part of the reason I gave this episode such a high rating.
Okay, let's hear
This
it.
meeting here, I mean, they're essentially having a morning meeting,
Oh
and
yeah.
one guy's like, "Excuse me, I'd like to call someone on the carpet," and it does not turn out the way he wants. Basically, she's like, "I got receipts." Now, the interesting, sort of the weird thing that happens here that doesn't make a whole lot of sense is after she says, I've got all this to prove it, and basically Partagas is like, okay, well, since you just been chilling, bro, she gets your sector.
Whoa.
But then Partagas is like, I'm not really worried about it. That seems a strange reaction. That didn't make sense to me. If you're going to take it seriously and say, this person is doing the work, and also he did something amazing where basically, Blevins like, well, what do you think if all of us were to do that kind of extra work? And Partagas is like, yeah, let me think how good everyone would be if you all did your job extra. Hmm. I mean, just beautiful. And then he pulls her off to the side part of Goss and says, watch your back. So I'm all good with that. I mean, I love the meeting. It's just like, whoa. All of a sudden, everybody, drops their donuts and is like, whoa, let's see what's going on here.
Have
But
you been in a morning meeting where people went so nuts like this? I mean, this was in front of each other. Oh,
no, 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 no. This is the kind of thing where somebody gets fired afterwards.
oh yeah.
Everybody ends up in HR. It's horrible. Um, but yeah, that was the only weird thing to me was that basically he says, "Okay, I approve of you doing all this extra stuff, and you've got the proof, and you're really strong about this, so I'll let you handle it." But I'm sure it's nothing. That was the only clunky part of that scene to me.
For me, the small clunk was I've never, and maybe I'm just jealous, I've never been in a place where you say, yeah, boss, the thing your mission statement may not be true. These lines you drew up on the map,
Hmm.
the rebels don't care about them. It's pointless. And for the boss to suddenly say, oh, wait, you're saying my work is pointless? I've never had a boss say, oh, what a smart way to think about it. Instead, they'd say, I'm going to double down on my lines. We're going to draw them in. We're going to paint them in permanent ink.
Right, especially as he says a little earlier in that scene when he says there's a little back and forth, and I put it, we'll do it. It's one of my Mandolicisious lines of the week. Part of guy essentially says, "So what you're telling me is all this horseshit you're telling me?" And the guy said, "Yeah, that's correct." And he says, and Partagas says, I'm correct. Your approval is heartening. I
Oh,
mean, stone cold this. Especially after that, you wouldn't want to be like, you know what, this thing that you're doing is all wrong.
one thing that is interesting
Hmm.
about this show is that, there's always the idea, well, could you do a show from the Empire's point of view? We're always following quote unquote the heroes. Could you do a show from the bad guys' point of view, the Imperial point of view? And it is office politics so far. But this actually could be its own show. These people going back and forth at each other at the ISB. It would work, I think.
So good. The cutthroat stories of the ISB.
Well, another thing I think that could be its own individual show
Hmm.
is Senator Mon Mothma's double life. And
Mom Mothma.
she has a mom. Well, I mean, that daughter of hers, she should
Yeah,
stop
Mom
going by
Mothma.
Mom Mothma.
Yeah.
And her husband, who people jokingly refer to as Man Mothma, he's the worst. I mean, but anyway, this dinner party, we finally got some aliens. Thank you. Not enough. But then, before we even get into what the scene is about, is this dude her like side squeeze? Is this her man on the side? She's very friendly with this banker Tay Kalma.
Okay.
Or are they just old friends? What do you buy,
No, they're
Catfish? Would
definitely
you want
all.
your wife to be that friendly with an old friend?
They're definitely just old friends. It's clear she hasn't talked to him in a while. I don't get any sense of that. Now, this actor is amazing from Coupling, an old
Exactly
British
right.
series that was based on Friends, and then they made a show in America based on Coupling, which was based on the American show Friends. So I hadn't seen him in a while, but it is good to see him.
He's good, I think, in this role. He's great. But I just thought because Mon Mothma is so much warmer and nicer to Tay than she's ever been to her husband, and let's be honest, that makes a lot of sense. I was like, lady, leave your husband, forget your damn daughter, and let's go with Tay. Hell to the yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I don't think her husband's not walking around going, "Gosh, why is she so mean to me after I'm so nice to her all the time?" And
Right.
I think the only thing he cares about her is for her connections, which he is now juicing for his own. So
Oh
they
man.
play a little dance here. She's like, I maybe could use your help with something. He's like, I don't know, because I may be a little too, my politics may be a little bit more strident than yours. And she's like, oh, really? Let's take a walk. Keep
Oh my
smiling,
goodness.
keep
Keep
smiling.
smiling, keep smiling.
There's a lot of keep smiling in this episode. Luthen, keep
Yep.
smiling to Mon Mothma. By the way, she did not keep smiling very
No.
much
No.
in that conversation. Keep smiling, keep smiling. So then she says she is doing a little bit more. Now,
Yes.
the funny thing is, she provides no details. He asked for
None.
no details. She says, I'm not going to give you any details. But as long as everyone thinks I'm an irritation, there's a good chance they'll miss what I'm really doing.
What are you really doing?
I can't tell you that. But even though I can't tell you, I'm going to make you, once we get this money out, you help me get this money out, I'm going to make you the leader of this foundation. And so even though I'll be doing something I can't tell you about, believe me, if we get caught, you're going to die.
And as she's saying this, so much is happening in this scene. She's like, "Oh yeah, there's my husband. Yeah, you know him. Say nothing to him. He can't be trusted." Oh my
Oh my
God.
God. Now I little thought here now, who knows? But I
Uh-oh.
was I get for a little bit quadruple T here.
Wait, quadruple T.
Yeah, trust Tay, terrible thought.
Oh my goodness. That would be very scary because she is trusting Tay. You're right. She's trusting him
Mhm.
with no details, but still in the world she's in,
Mhm.
you got to be careful what you say to anybody. Now, she does talk about her charity organizations, I believe is the way she phrases it. But she also said to him, Tay, I'm going to tell you something only 3 people in the galaxy know about. Whoa. That is, when you hear that and the context of that, is it Tay okay or Tay not okay? I mean, and if
Right.
he has any parent in him, she is, ooh,
She gone.
goodbye.
Mhm.
We did have a short shot of Lita there, her daughter. Any more thoughts on her, or is she still the mini worst?
Yeah, yeah. No, she's the maxi worst. Well, maybe she's the medium worst. It's
Oh,
still little Leia in the lead,
no, terrible.
and then larger Leia, Lita,
Yeah.
right below her.
Mm, terrible. Oh my goodness gracious. Hey, let's leave the big city. We got to get out there, see the countryside. There's
Mhm.
just once again a very couple of short shots there at Aldhani. Cinda sees the Empire moving in. They got ripped off. Now they're coming. They're bringing a Star Destroyer. This is serious. And then we see a shot of her riding her cool scooter down the mountain.
Yeah, and then we find out from when Vel's got her double B bad blowout
Yeah.
and talking to Luthen's assistant that Cinta had another job.
Mm.
How many? I mean, I don't know. Considering the very small percentile chance that the last one would be successful, I think if I was Cinta, I'd be like, you know what? I want a break. Are there any beach planets I can go to? Just chill
Right.
for a little bit.
Well, any idea what Cinta would be up to? And or Vel, if you're being told, hey, Clem is a complication, you got to get rid of him. What if you suddenly start thinking, does Luthen think I'm a complication? Does Luthen think Cinta, who I care very much for, is a complication? I mean, this is some dicey ground all of them are on.
Yeah, it's really hard when your boss assigns you somebody and then says, "Don't worry if they kick," and you rely on them, and then afterwards he's like, "Why didn't you kill him?" Well, okay,
Not good.
not good.
So let's jump back to one of those early planets, Ferrix. Cassian returns home to Marva and B2 Emo, that droid, and Marva gives him a previously on. Well, you came and did this, the Empire did this, and now we are screwed. Troopers are now there. It's under Imperial authority. And Marva also knows all the details on Tim. Oh, who ratted you out, Cassian? Oh, it was Tim. What happened to him? Well, he died. How did he die? Well, he was either doing this or he was doing this. Like Marva, everybody knows everything. There's no secrets anymore. And Marva even has the line, "It's all come undone," to show that, hey, it really has gone everywhere.
I mean, and not only that, but she is, and I don't know whether I'm jumping here. You want to cover this later?
No, let's get to it.
She has been rejuvenated by this. Her feelings of anger against the Empire and willingness to push against the Empire are rejuvenated. She's like, listen, if they can do this thing, if this amazing thing can be done, I have to do everything I can. And Cassian is like, well, it was just a robbery.
No, buddy.
But I can't tell you any more than that. It was an announcement.
It was a poke in the eye is what it really was. And this has to be a big moment for Marva. We only get brief flashes of it, but we know that Clem, that name came from Marva's husband, you might assume, and the people who got Casa off that planet. And we see in a flashback that Clem, long story short, he was trying to stop people from throwing rocks at troopers. The troopers instead said, "Oh, it must be you," and they hung him in the streets. Whoa.
Horrible.
And it's like you said, Marva was like, I can't even go by that area anymore. But now, you know what? Now I can go by it. Screw them. There was one point that I really loved where Cassian's trying to get her to come with him. And he's like, listen, you can't beat them, Marva. Marva, not if I run away. And Marva also says, listen, you can't stay. I can't go. I really wanted B2 to pipe up. Can I go? Can I get out of here?
Man, B2,
why do I have to stay?
B2 loved him so much.
And this is the thing that, when we talk about this series' format, and listeners, maybe you consider this a slight spoiler, but the showrunner, Tony Gilroy, didn't consider this like the first episode of one of these 3-episode arcs. He considered it just a Fallout episode. And believe it or not, the 3-episode arcs begin next week again. The final line that Marva seems to say to Cassian is, stop searching for your sister. It's a fantasy. There were no survivors on Kenari. But there's one thing that Cassian is not going to do, and that's not going to stop searching for his sister. Well, he's going to get a 6-year break.
No, my question to you was, did he have some information that she was on Neamos?
Spring Blake planet? I don't think so. I hope not. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
He was like, you know what? Wherever she is, she'll be fine for the next couple months while I decompress.
Any thoughts about, we've already mentioned it, the Bix booty call, his attempt to go there. He wants to be square with people. He's dropping off all the credits he owes. Bix is pretty much telling him, yeah, everybody here hates you. You're to blame.
Well, I mean, if he's going to accept that blame, at some point, maybe he will recognize all these things he's doing. If there's going to be repercussions, it should mean something.
Well, he's about to get some terrible repercussions. So why don't we hit the beach, baby? Neamos. And
love it.
Heck yeah. I was like, heck yeah, the beach. But I did hate this name, Keith Gurgo. And his lady's name, so Keith sounds an awful lot like Keith. And sure enough, his lady is Wendy, not Wendy. Oh my goodness gracious.
All right. And she wants the good stuff. You got to get the right colored stuff.
Spring break.
She's got spring break hair. They're partying, and he takes some credits with him, hides the rest up above.
Oh yeah, he doesn't want her getting them.
He makes only one mistake.
Oh boy.
And that is, well, I don't know if you would think it would be that big a mistake, but he does look and act a little bit guilty when the other people are being chased down.
Right. Yeah, why not just go, officer, there they are.
Shoot, I crazily thought he might actually stop them himself.
Oh, man.
Here you go, Mr. Shore Trooper.
once again, I love aliens. I also love these droids. You got probe droids flying in the air. You got droids like K2SO. They're known as the KX series droids, and they are complete a-holes. They rough him up.
No. They
rough him up. I love
they
it.
rough him up, but they take things very literally. If you say,
yes.
make sure he hangs around, you are going to hang him around.
How about this? Make sure he doesn't leave. Well, he can't leave with legs.
Boom. Bubba.
Yeah.
Years and years ago, I went to Cuba illegally.
Here we go.
I've never felt safer than walking around the streets at night in Cuba at 2 in the morning, because there are police on every corner. And because they know they're getting a lot of money from tourists, they're great to the tourists. They're not great to the people who live there. In other words, I was walking with a Cuban one time, and the cops came up to make sure I was okay. Are you being taken advantage by this person? Are you whatever? So they were really looking out for the tourists, and I would think Neamos, the Better Business Bureau, might want to talk to the shore troopers.
Well, what do you think the tourism slogan is? Enjoy the beaches. Only the beaches. Don't leave. Just sit there. Don't run. Don't move.
Neamos, will you take life slow or else?
Isn't it crazy? So Cassian pulls the job on Aldhani. The Empire's like, okay, we're going to boost up every sentence. And then he gets busted for things he shouldn't be busted for. A 6-month sentence becomes 6 years in prison. Holy smokes. Payback's a Bix.
Oh, man. He must have gotten they didn't show us where he got a good cover identity, because I was worried that he would be scanned and then it would be all over for him.
Thank goodness the Empire doesn't have facial recognition technology yet, or he'd be in deep doo.
I don't know. I mean, it's just lucky for him that fuel purity does not have a connection to the prison system.
Hey, that's the episode once again. So much fun, so much Syril, so much goodness. Tell us what you thought about it down in the comments on YouTube at PPHQ. After we review the episode, we like to have some light, fun games to get us ready for our big debate. So, Catfish, what's up first?
All right. Well, first we have the Mandolicisious line of the episode. The delicious lines we have in 2 categories: funny, kind of funny, and then badass. I only have one funny Mandolicisious line of the episode proposed, and it's Clemian when he says to Bix, "Your crazy boyfriend tries to get me killed, and I'm the villain."
I would appreciate that line, but no one can speak poorly of Tim. How dare you?
Tim.
R.I.P. Tim. R.I.P.P. Tim.
Do you have any more funny lines, Bubba?
Well, I actually think this next line that you consider badass is pretty funny. So why don't we go to it?
I love it. All right. Syril's mom, Edie, says to Syril, "Your outfit says, 'Look at me. I don't believe in myself. I am desperate for approval.'"
Once again, Mom, this makes me appreciate my mom so much.
Edie Cole.
Oh my God. That reminds me of when I got a haircut one time. My mom looked at me and she goes, "Boy, your haircut's too short on the side. Makes your ears look like Dumbo."
Oh, wow. Thanks, Mom.
I was like, thanks, Mom.
All right. Thinking of moms, the next lines are a couplet. Mon Mothma says, "People will suffer," and lying Luthen says, "That's the plan."
Oh, that is ice cold. That is ice cold. I love the line, but holy smokes.
Oh, man. All right. And the next one is the conversation between Partagas and someone named Mr. Young. Right. Apparently, this is Carl Jung, but apparently instead of one theory of philosophy, Carl Jung has 3 theories. Partagas says, "So 3 theories, Mr. Young? Mm-hmm. 3 possible explanations for why you failed to keep pace with your neighboring sectors?" And Jung says, "That's correct." And Partagas says, "I'm correct? Your approval is heartening."
You do not want that final sentence, Mr. Young. That is stone cold. Wonderful.
And this one I probably should have put in the funny section. Okay, it is at the end of the morning meeting battle when it's concluded, and Partagas says, "I salute the provocative exchange of ideas."
You also don't want to hear that at the boarding meeting from the boss. Bad work, Blevin. Oh, all of these are so good. But maybe just because it's going to set up our Bounty Hunter Guild battle, I think I'm going to have to go with Mon Mothma's People Will Suffer. And Luthen just stone cold. That's the plan. Oh my God, that is stone cold. That's my Mandolicisious line of the episode.
I love how you said mine is I salute the provocative exchange of ideas. He practically said, if anyone wants to let blood at the table, feel free. There's a center section there where you can fight.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay, I keep mentioning this Bounty Hunter Guild battle, but before we get to that, it's our good buddy Double M.
Yeah, Double M with his quadruple M.
Wait, quadruple M?
Matt Murdock's musical analysis.
Oh, brother.
Hey all, just a couple things to report this week. Not much, I'll be quick. As you have probably even noticed, the opening title music has changed with each new episode. It's still the Andor theme, but most of the time the changes are like in the timbres. There have been some slight harmonic changes, but I wanted to note a really big harmonic change that changed the tone of everything in this particular episode as compared to the rest. Most of the time, no matter what kind of different instrumentation is implied or even some slight different harmonies, we usually still get a resolution to a major 4 chord against the minor. I know that's a lot of jargon, so let me just explain. When I first broke down this theme, I told you that the second chord doesn't fit, that it adds hope to what would otherwise be a dark sounding theme. And that's the chord that holds out before the melody kind of drops again and starts to make it minor again. So normally the harmony, and again specifically listen to the second chord or set of harmonies that are played here. That second chord actually is a major chord, so it implies hope. There's hope in Cassian's mission, so to speak. But this time around, the changing of one note made things more in the air than hopeful. And again, I've only changed one note, and all Nicholas did was change one note. But it changes the emotional context of the theme completely, because it creates a chord that feels like it needs to resolve somewhere, where the first one did feel resolved. This time around, it feels like it still needs to go somewhere, and thus makes the theme much more dark than that resolution that we're used to. It sounds like this. Rather than having a 4 major chord over the top of the root, we have a 2 minor chord over the top of the root. So you have a minor to a minor. There's no sense of hope in there. Interestingly enough, that same harmony was used for Cinta. When she was on the speeder bike, that exact same note was placed in the chord to create a feeling of uncertainty, which makes us worry for her as much as we're worrying for Andor. It was almost like Betrell was telling us that Cassian might be in danger, not just from the Empire, like he ends up at the end of the episode with the whole 8-bit kind of soundtrack, which was weird, but also from the rebels. And with Cinta, perhaps we're looking at the fact that, she's on the run. Is she going to make it out? And that's why we had those harmonies there. Because, as I've said before, Nicholas Betrell doesn't seem to be approaching things thematically, except for the Andor theme, in the score for this show. He's much more atmospheric, creating mood. There is an interesting piece of music as Luthen's messenger, who I think is supposed to be some representation of a Leia-like character with the long hair. I could actually look at that girl and I could see her hair rolled up in the cinnamon buns that Carrie Fisher wore in Star Wars A New Hope. And I asked myself, is this Leia or not? Anyway, as she's walking through the port to get to Vel, both before and after the scene with the Imperials, we get a rhythmic and melodic figure that goes with her. Again, no guarantee that this will ever be repeated, but I just found it interesting because it reemphasizes something that I talked about last week about raising your pulse. Now, there's percussion and bass involved, and I've tried to combine them so that the overall rhythm that you get that's going underneath the melodic figure is this. So what does that pulse underneath the melody do? It doesn't matter how many notes are in the melody or not. You don't need the notes in the melody to have a whole lot of notes to create excitement because you have this pulse underneath it. And we're thinking, who is this person? And I'm thinking, is this Leia? But I'm sure you're not. You're just thinking, who is this person? And it's the pulse underneath that helps build excitement about this character. Gives it a sense of mission. Gives it a sense of urgency. And we'll listen for this in the future. But like I said before, with Nicholas, I'm not really sure that there's a whole lot going on thematically other than the main Andor theme. But the melody that was placed over the top of that melodic figure was this. So I'll keep my ears out for it, but I'm not making any guarantees that we'll ever even hear it again. Heck, I don't even know if we'll ever even see this character again. Back to Bubba and Catfish.
Ooh, thank you, Matt. Very good.
I like that. That it's always interesting. I kind of didn't notice that the opening was changing, and the fact that we've lost some hope this week. It means our time at the beach is over, I guess.
Oh man! Every time you leave the beach, you got to play the music a little differently. That's why Jimmy Buffett is so sad. Okay. All right, all you bounty hunters. Here, let's enter the Bounty Hunter Guild battle, where Grief Karga gives us a question and we battle it out to win the Bounty Hunter puck. This week, it's who's got the right philosophy. Which rebel is in the right? Luthen? Hell yeah, people will suffer, and that'll cause people to finally wake up and start fighting this oppression. Or Mon Mothma's, who's like, we can fight the oppression through channels where nobody has to suffer. Who's right, Catfish? Luthen or Mon Mothma?
Oh man, I'm so glad you let me go first because I've got the only right answer, and that is Luthen.
Ooh.
And I've
People
got a couple,
have to suffer?
I've got a couple reasons for this. Well, first of all, they carried this thing off with 6 people. Seven saps carried this thing out. Mon Mothma herself says, hey, I've got all these grand plans. We're going to fix everything. By the way, you're the 4th person to know these grand plans. Okay? 4 people, no matter how much money they have, no matter how much access to resources they have, are not going to be able to get this done. To get it done, you need people to rise up everywhere. And for people to rise up everywhere, they have to feel oppressed. And I think Luthen has the exact right idea. Poke the Empire, have them clamp down on everybody, and then everybody, not just people who get 6 years in jail for jaywalking on the beach, everybody will feel like the leadership needs to change. This has to be an uprising from the bottom, not the top.
Okay. I understand that, and I do understand the philosophy behind it. What I would counter argue, though, in this, I feel comes a bit from Mon Mothma's position, is that before this happened, Luthen was fighting, right? Bix was fighting. Marva said, hey, I'm against this too. They already had the people together. They just needed a network, right? They needed to bring these people together. Yes, a terrible atrocity and more oppression will possibly bring them together faster, but the people were already sick of it. When the corpos were coming to get Andor and everybody in the city is clanging their pipes and bells to say, hey, it's on, be careful. The people were already together. Sad Syril's his assistant, his hype man was saying there are pockets. Remember how he said that there are pockets of resistance out there, of rebellion out there. So that was before this new level of oppression. And so I'm not sure you needed it. And it certainly, even though I do want everybody to come together, if I was part of this and I heard about these poor Aldhani people who got rounded up for absolutely no reason, but because of what I did, I would feel terrible. And I just don't know that I would be able to truly go forward with a rebellion where these poor, it's only, 134, but still 134 innocent people are going to suffer because of something I did. I would have trouble with that.
It's going to be more that has to suffer. Here's my rebuttal to your rebuttal. It's going to have to be thousands, maybe millions of people that suffer. You're talking about very small groups of people. And again, they're small pockets. These smaller pockets can be wiped out. You need an uprising from everybody. You need the mother who's just trying to live her life. You need everybody on the street, not just like banging warning. You need them to uprise and go against. So I just think it needs to be everybody, and smaller groups, smaller cells can be shut down, but you can't shut down everybody.
All right. Let me say once again, you're wrong, but it's nice that you tried.
Okay.
Listeners, what do you think? Are you down with Luthen, or are you ready to go higher with Mothma? Let us know by telling us at Double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/Double PHQ. However you want to get us comments, we can accept it. If you want to email, you can go hello@doublepmedia.com. We'll read your email, because this is kind of like a big idea that I think the series is getting at. And I love it. We love the series, and possibly this is what makes it special. It's these kind of bigger ideas.
All right. Well, Bubba, before we get to our very last bit, we've got something interesting here. We have a section we call Double C.
I'm not sure I call this section Double C, but sure.
Catfish Cuestion. And actually, it's supplied by one of our listeners. In fact, he's a quadruple L.
Quadruple L?
Yeah, he's a loyal listener, local looky-loo. Because he said, replied, and provided a question and the answer. He said, where was the party planet Nema's location shot? And he said it was on the flood defenses of his local Lancashire beach at Cleveley's. And he said there was no sand because the tide was in. So yes, one of our loyal listeners provided the catfish question and the amazing answer. So thank you very much, Sean Gregan at Hey Ref.
At Hey Ref on Twitter. That is wonderful. Sean, I wonder if you went down there and turned Cassian in. Are you the Sand Trooper? Sean Sand Trooper turned in Cassian. I can't believe it. How could you? Oh, wow. That's cool. I mentioned this, I think, before. It was how when shows, Star Wars shows film in Southern California, everybody's like, oh, that's right. That's 10 minutes from my house. Do you think Sean watched this episode and was like, oh my goodness, that's the beach right over there? Or was he like, hey, that's the beach right over there? Sean, write us and let us know. And hey, listeners, if you've ever been to any of these real life Star Wars shooting locations, let us know, because that is always kind of so cool to recognize that stuff.
It is awesome.
Catfish, I have a bit of music I want to play for you right now. Are you ready?
Let's hear it. Andor, what's that secret you're keeping? Andor, what's that secret you're keeping? All right, so Bubba, what question do you want answered in the next episode, or what question do you need answered about this episode?
I love these questions to think about. I'm going to give it up to Vel. Vel is obviously, we can assume, a lieutenant under Luthen. Vel has just been given an order. You got to clean up this missing piece we've got of Clem. They're going to point her to Ferrix, right? And she'll, you would assume that's where she'd go. Hey, this is where that jerk Clem is located. But Clem's not there. Does anybody there know that Clem's in prison? Is Vel got a mission to break into a prison to kill Clem? I mean, I think this is fascinating, and that's the bit of the story that this episode has me wondering about and questioning. What will Vel do if her mission is to take out this guy who's got Luthen in his mind, but he's going to have a lot of time to think about Luthen. He's got 6 years to doing nothing. So that is the thing I think is the most interesting.
I wonder why, and this is not my real secret, but following along on that, I wonder why is if everybody there knew that it was Cassian's fault, how come there was no one hanging around at the two places that he might show up? His ex-girlfriend's or his mom's place?
How about this? You give it this, is that at the very least, nobody else is going to pull a Tim. We saw what happened to Tim. So they're not telling the Empire. So they may hate Cassian and blame him, but they're still not going to turn him over to the real enemy. So I actually like that. I like that. What do you think? You think they should just be there and like, listen, you moron?
I think they should. I think there should have been some stormtroopers, or at least still around looking for the dude who caused all this trouble. My real that secret you're keeping tonight, though, is how long until Keef's girlfriend finds another sugar Keefy?
I'm available. No.
Just make sure to get the right color. That's all I ask.
I mean, good grief. They're all the same.
Good Keef.
Good.
All right, well, let's get some feedback from our loyal listeners. Always the best. We got some feedback on episode 6, our favorite episode, maybe my favorite thing of all time. That might make number 1 on my list, Bubba. When we do the list, but I'm not have to do it by episodes the way you do. Terrible. Ronald Pollock on YouTube says Andor is amazing. Every character is written well. No one is stupid. I mean, not Syril, but he's amazingly stupid. I love how the cause versus money weighs on 2 characters.
Ooh. I think it almost weighs on more than 2 now. Like it's going to weigh on Mon Mothma's childhood friend. There's going to be a lot of spinning out of this. I do agree that the characters are well written. If someone is stupid on purpose, they're written smartly as stupid.
Correct. There's no smart person who does a dumb thing, except for the little concern I had tonight about Partagaz being like, you've got a lot of evidence? Good, I'm sure it's nothing. Now, I will say this, though. One thing I feel like I'm missing, and I'm just thinking about it now, is do we know why Luthen has it so hard for the Empire? So that might be something, because he is really going all out. He is all in on this, except for the fact that he's making other people do all the work.
Catfish, I think that's a great question. I think it is something we're going to have to find out. If somehow his past in any way ties to Cass's past, like if he lost his family on that yellow gas ship that crashed and killed everybody, that would be an interesting way to pull them and almost say, hey, your fight is my fight. And so we need to find it out, because you're right. He's a radical. He's a radical for a good cause, but he is pretty radical.
Yeah, especially when he laughs. All right, so we have Facebook feedback on episode 6. Dan Hickling says, this episode was my favorite thing to come out of that galaxy far away since Empire.
Whoa.
The podcast isn't too far behind either. 3 double M's.
Wait, double M's?
Yeah, memorable moments.
Ooh.
Underwater, looking up at the double L's.
Wait, double L?
Yeah, looting ladies.
Oh,
the TIE pilot climbing down into his double C.
Double C?
Crashable cockpit backlit by the double H.
Oh, double H?
Heavenly hailstorm.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
And then the double T.
Double T. Hold
Tender
on.
tap on the double B.
Double B?
Broken body of Nemec by the double D.
Double D.
Delinquent doctor. Oh, my God. Dan, you've done it, Dan. Dan, you have done it. You got the bell. Holy cow.
That is some great feedback. Incredible feedback. Which is your favorite? I like the double B by the double D.
And the tender tap.
Oh.
All right. So Travis Drew says, I love Andor more every week. Episode 5 and 6 were the best yet. I give episode 5 and 6 10 out of 10 double Qs.
Wait, double Qs?
Yeah, for quirky characters.
Oh,
yes, thank you, Travis. And Andor overall 9 out of 10 double Bs for brilliant backdrops.
Oh, man.
Loving all the new characters and locations.
Thank you very much, Travis. But if Catfish has encouraged you to do double Qs for quirky characters,
yes.
Oh my goodness, we've got to stop this podcast immediately.
Thank you.
Get Partagas in here to
My
stop
life
this.
finally has meaning.
Now we've been getting all this feedback on episode 6, and we've got some more feedback on episode 6. But this episode right now, episode 7, Sean Gregan, we were just talking about at HeyRef on Twitter. He said it was another slow start for the next Andor arc, but he likes the slow burns. He says all threads developed, but the acting from Fiona Shaw as Marva Andor is why episode 7 is getting 8 double S's.
Double S's?
Well, that's what he calls senior subversives. Oh, man.
I love it.
Wow. Well, he did 8, so that's actually lower than you and the exact score I did. So, Sean, you got to stay 10 out of 10. We have all these people loving everything. We got to go.
All right. And on episode 6, our old friend Camille at Harley Camille says, probably the best episode so far. The ending was surprising. A lot of dead characters.
Now, Camille was one of the people who did have trouble with some of those slower episodes. So, Camille, if you're listening, I'd love to know what you thought about this episode, because this episode was slow, but because it was all of repercussions from the heist, I actually liked it a lot.
All right. And replying to her and to us, Dooley's Left Legs at Dooley's Left Legs says, totally agree with Harley. I'm glad I suffered through the first 5 episodes. I enjoyed the initial one, but 2 through 5 were slowly at times leading us to this point, and boy, what a payoff. So glad I stuck with it. It had the feel of a real Star Wars universe action. I'm psyched for more Rebel hits.
Heck yeah, episode 6 was great. Our final bit of feedback is from our good buddy Double M Matt Murdoch, who's at Musical Concepts on Twitter. He does all those brilliant musical analyses. Oh my God, even I'm doing it. Stop me.
Yes.
But we were joking online about Spring Break City there. And Matt said, Spring Break City must be the home place of the New Order. And so, New Order is, of course, that classic band from the 80s, which formed out of Joy Division. And Matt says, check out the bass line from the beginning progression of Bizarre Love Triangle, and you'll find it's the establishing beach shots use the exact same chord progression, though in a different key. Now, Matt, you would only capture that.
Oh, man, that is a deep, deep cut by Double M.
Listeners, you don't always listen to this on or watch this on YouTube, but if you did, you'd see the big smiles we have on our faces from this great feedback. And maybe we need to move the feedback higher in the podcast, because you guys bring it every week. And
so good.
If you want to just yell at us individually on Twitter, my name's Bubba. You can find me at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And I am Catfish. You can hit me up at CJGman67 on Twitter. And we'll see you next week for episode 8 of
Parsec Passion. Next week, there'll be a lot of triple C's.
Triple C's.
Quirky catfish questions.
Yes! I'm so
I hate
excited.
myself.